hang on. I think it's important to share this video because I think she had such a powerful, authentic voice for what libraries offer to people of all ages: safety, connection, community, growth, a voice, even if you're voiceless. It's such an important piece of our community, and I'm not sure that everyone knows about it, appreciates it, uses it as much. And Maya Angelou has passed away quite some years ago, and I feel like it's even more urgent because as kind of corporations and like everything gets privatized from public service and so on, and capitalism, late stage capitalism and everything, it is rapidly, libraries like the, I mean, I'm having trouble, but one of the few places in our communities where you are not a customer. You're a patron. Nobody's trying to sell you anything. Nobody's expecting you to spend money or give your private data, or you get sold as a product, right? Get your attention and things like that. That I feel like libraries are rapidly becoming a really special place of community, of fun, of story, of resources, and of just being able to hang out and be yourself for your own purposes and not anyone else's agenda. I'll take a second, since we don't have a big crowd. What is your sense of libraries? And I'll start with you, Antonio.
So for me, I didn't grow up going much to libraries, and if I did, it wasn't because of the books. It was because of the space, the silence that they offered. They offered silence. A lot of times, different libraries, the hours. You know, if I needed to do homework, needed to focus, that would be where I would like going to, because I know at my house I would get distracted or something. So that would be what I would use my library for.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even now, I work home. This is my living room, by the way, so you can tell that I definitely believe in books. There's a long gray couch here that's just perfect for stretching out and reading on. I wore one of my favorite shirts. I don't know if you can see it, but it's so many books, so little time. With the pigeon, he's a famous from a picture book series. He's very famous. But yes, absolutely. I even in all this, right? A super comfortable, book-friendly room, I still find going to the library to do stuff and projects and write and kind of be in community with people without being bothered by them.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah, because that's where I would like, you know, like I could do my work, but when I wanted to focus, I would go to a library.
Yeah. And yet everybody else was doing their thing too, right? Like you didn't feel alone with it, but you were getting to work on your own. So one of the things, this presentation that I want to talk about, so I won't get into it too much, but I have been working in after school for 20 years now. And before that, I was a classroom teacher. And I currently write custom curriculum for people. And I coach and consult for after school programs. And one of the things I wanted to share about was I feel like libraries are something people can use individually, like you could, Antonio, or just even use it in your work. And my presentation is about like, what are those resources and how, like not learning about them if they're new to you, but also then some ideas on how to actually use them in your program. Both for kids, for yourself, for your professional development, for your families, and connecting them to resources and literacy experiences. So what I'd like to do is, do you have a piece of paper handy?
Yes, give me a second.
No problem. And it doesn't have to be fancy, just anything. And Leslie, you can do this too if you but what I would like you to do on any
definitely.
Just make a grid, right? Draw a line, kind of turn it into 4 little squares. So draw,
Like across,
yeah. So you
around the
cut
whole
your-
paper.
Just one big one. So you're cutting your one sheet into 4 squares because you're going to fill in the 4 squares with some stuff. So it's kind of going to be your notes page, frankly, but
All right,
but
but
hopefully in
my
a fun way.
oh
Yeah, perfect, perfect,
yeah.
perfect. All right. So do you, Antonio, have access? It seems like you're on a phone.
Yes, I
Are you okay with opening a second window or doing and finding your actual library website? Now, I have done,
actually I have a computer right here, so I can use this one.
and Leslie, you could open up your library too, wherever you're located. So everybody can look at their own library resources. And this is, are you in the city of San Diego, Antonio?
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
am.
So that would be, this is your library. So you're looking for something, and it's just san diego.gov public library.
Oh yes, I know where that's at. Yeah, definitely.
So that's the main branch, I'm imagining. It looks like you have, I don't know, it looks like 25 locations. Look at all these locations. But this is the website. So you want to find this website.
All right, give me a second.
Where
Mm.
I wanted to say,
Yes.
after listening to Maya's talk, that piece around like that they're safe spaces, and that like even just rang so true even during the recent pandemic. And in any situation really, like in California when we've had fires, when there's been like heat waves, like the library has always been like this place, this safe place that people can go to.
Mm-hmm. So, I just, that's one of my passions is connecting all of us more and our kids in our programs and after school, because we're safe places, right? Our after school programs, but we can't cover all the hours and we can't cover all the needs. And so there's more evenings and there's weekends and things. And so connecting kids and families to the library resources is also really powerful. So you good, Antonio?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, awesome. One thing I'm going to say real quick, I am not going to train on how to get the apps or for the digital resources and stuff, like the technical stuff, because the librarians at your library can help you in a heartbeat. If your site, if you're working with kids, you work with kids directly, Antonio, or you a coordinator?
Yes, I do.
You work directly with kids?
Mhm.
Yeah. So if your site has Chromebooks, or if it has tablets, or if the kids have their school devices, or you have iPhones, right? Like I don't want to bog our presentation or our connection on the technical thing. I will tell you right now that your local library totally knows how to connect all those devices to the resources they have. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm not leaving you alone with it. I'm just not going to get into it today, right? They will help you, I promise. And they've done it thousands of times. They're like able to like, oh, here's your eCloud, here's your Hoopla, here's your, so they'll be able to help you and how to get your kids connected. So I'm not going to help with that. Real quick on library cards, before I get into the details, people worry about getting a library card for several reasons, things to consider. Part partly because of the pandemic, but a lot of libraries are currently offering online library cards immediately. It doesn't often give you all permissions, but at least you can get something and check out things digitally instantly. And then you have to go in and get a regular card, right? To be able to then check out physical books and so on. So that keep that. And more and more libraries are recognizing not everybody has a home, right? Unhoused. If you have students or families that are in shelters or unhoused, and you're like, well, they can't get a library because they don't have that like bill to show and stuff, don't worry about it. Many libraries now have a special category where they don't require an address. So check and see, especially your bigger urban libraries are very comfortable and have a whole category for that. Another thing that families worry about, especially the kind of kids often the communities that we're working in, which is low income, worry about fines, damaging books, right? The families don't have money, so they don't want to check out. Their kid wants like 19 picture books, and they're like, how do I collect all those? And how do they not get hurt or damaged? So a couple of things is, if we really get big on the digital stuff, a couple of things, there's nothing to damage. And you can check out all the same picture books. There's nothing to damage. There's no overdue. Because what happens is when the time's up, it just expires, right? And you can't open it anymore on your device. Second of all, many libraries are now actually getting rid of overdue fines themselves, even if you check out physical books. It's a huge movement in libraries because they've done the math and realized it costs them more in staff time to ask people to pay for their overdue fines than they were getting back in their overdue fines. And many libraries are realizing that it's kind of like counterproductive. The exact families they want to help the most are the ones that are too intimidated because they owe $8, and $8 is a big deal in their family. You know, it might be the difference on the next week's electric bill, right? And so the libraries were realizing they were actually the people that needed them the most, they were accidentally blocking. So more and more libraries are not doing fines. So anything around library cards themselves, a lot of these barriers that I just mentioned are going away. So please know that, encourage your families and your kids to connect to libraries, because I think any concerns can be alleviated. Okay, so also one other barrier is how often things are in English. Many of us say Spanish is the most significant second language, though in LA and San Francisco, some of your bigger communities, you have Tagalog, right? A real Philippine community, things like that. Many of these libraries are also staffing more and more other languages, particularly Spanish. It's amazing how much the Spanish title explosion. So you have your recent immigrant children, your dual language kids, right? Your parents that the kids fairly fluent in English, but the parent isn't, and so they're intimidated to like have a reading time because they can read in Spanish but not so great in English or something. They can check out the Spanish book version of Pete the Cat and read the Pete the Cat in Spanish to their kid, right? Which would be so powerful if they did that. So I just want to point out these barriers and say that actually a lot of these barriers are going away, and check that out for your local community. So now what I'd like to do is I'm going to share real fast some kind of a bigger picture of some of the digital resources that are available. Alana, since we have a small group, we're kind of sharing where we are. I had us share earlier.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Where are you located?
I'm actually in Detroit, Michigan.
Fantastic.
And I work for an organization called Project Play. We're actually a youth sports organization. And some of our partners have in the past used their local libraries for equipment lending. And so I was just kind of interested in this topic. If it's okay, my camera's off today, but I am just curious to learn about more resources from local libraries.
Excellent. What I'm asking you to do is on a separate screen, if you have access to one, either on your laptop or your however you're set up, is find your local library and open their homepage. We won't be seeing it, but this way you can compare and see what's available immediately locally.
Okay, perfect.
Couple of things will be California specific, Alana, but that does not mean there might not be some parallel in your area. Okay, so please check into that. For instance, Antonio and Leslie, I'm also going to point out, and this is less an issue because Antonio is in a very big area, and I think Leslie's also in one of our less rural areas. But we have a lot of programs in rural areas. I consult right now with Pro Youth, which is out in Visalia, and they're in tiny, very rural areas, and their library is very small. But there's a new California law that passed 6 weeks ago, or went into effect 6 weeks ago, January 1st, that if you have a California address, you can get a library card from any library in the state. So I personally drove straight to LA and got myself an LA library card, and I live almost 2 hours away. But I now have checked out 500,000 books digitally from the library, and my local library only had 21,000. I know that sounds like a lot, but I like 500,000 a lot more than 21,000, especially when I'm talking about like resources. Leslie, you look like you want to say.
Yes. So I really want to know what this bill is. And also that is amazing because I feel like that has been like when I was much younger, like the Harry Potter books were coming out. And so because me and my peers, like we couldn't afford to buy these books, there were these and so my family that lived in the East Bay, they would like sign up and then I would sign up in San Francisco, and then we had other family living in different areas that signed up at their libraries to see like who would get the books the quickest, and then we would share them and then give them back.
You were ahead of the time. So yeah,
but yeah, I would love to know what bill this is, because I think
actually
that would
law
be a great
now.
resource to share.
This is actually law now. It's gone beyond
what
bill.
law that
So it's I can look it up and send it to you separately, but it is the law, and you can go to any California library and the law includes if you don't live. Alana came to California. Even if she doesn't live here, she could get a temporary California library card. They are trying to lower the barrier big time. And what I love about this, especially because digital resources have become so common, right, that you can just drive somewhere. I now have 4 library cards. I have Santa Barbara, which is where I'm located, everybody between LA and San Francisco, right? I'm a couple hours above LA. And I'm not rural, but I'm also not that urban, right? My library system is just 2 branches. It's not that big, and it's so I wanted more resources. So like I said, I drove to LA, and then I stopped in Thousand Oaks on the way back. I got a library card there. So I actually have library cards from multiple places. And amazingly, with digital resources, you can check them all out in one app at the same time. You can have all your library books on the same app. So what I'd like to do now is get into actual resources, unless anybody's got a question right now. All right, so what I'd like to share is I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to start probably in this, and actually, Antonio, I don't know how often you get close to LA, but the next time you show that, I would throw in 30 minutes to grab a library card from LA, because they have amazing resources. In fact,
all right, yeah.
I'll show LA because it's close to you, and you might benefit quite a bit. So libraries have digital resources, physical resources, and I have a handout that lists this out that you will get. I'll upload it after this. But basically, you have digital resources, physical resources, librarians themselves, events, right? They have lots of events. And then you also have these kind of, what do I want to say? Other resources that are not, they're services. Okay, for instance, many libraries offer food these days. particularly when schools are closed. Libraries have connected to the federal lunch program. And so lots and lots of libraries will do box lunch during the summer for free for anybody under 18. And so if you have any food insecure families, keep an eye out for looking for the flyer or the announcement on your library website if they're doing food this summer. Okay. I think somebody said something about checking out tools and objects, right? Libraries are doing, I'm starting to get off track, but like you can get your high school diploma for free, even if you're not a US citizen, which I will come back to. So here is the Los Angeles thing. And so I want to talk about, you've got the digital, you've got the physical, you've got stuff for kids and teens, and you have stuff for adults. You have services and you have actual resources. Let's start with the simple and obvious, which is the actual library catalog digitally. So digital ebooks for your ebooks and audiobooks usually is Libby. It used to be Overdrive, but they're getting rid of this. So the people who did Overdrive, if that's familiar to you, are sunsetting that. They are also the ones that did Libby. So Libby is the app to check out and read your actual library books and audiobooks. Hoopla is another one, which and they are different. They have different strengths and weaknesses, I guess is the word, or not weaknesses, but just different focus. I'm looking at yours, Antonio, because we are a small group, and I'm trying to see what your digital, because I want you to know what you actually have specifically, because we're so small today. So let's see, e-library, there we go. Oh, interesting. They are using Cloud Library.
Cloud Library.
Cloud Library is your app.
Okay.
Check out. I don't know Cloud Library, but I don't think it's going to be that different than Libby or Hoopla. Because it's still the same content. So I've clicked on it, see what it says. Some of these other resources, there we go. Okay, here you go. These are what you can check out digitally, Antonio. So you have to download the app. I'm not going to do it anything. I'm just showing it to you. So you have the thing, but see up in the upper right corner here, it says download the reader. So you would download the app and then you would log in, and that's just your barcode. And usually the last 4 digits of your phone number for the password.
Okay.
I'm speaking truth to that for Hoopla and Libby and Overdrive. I'm assuming it's similar for Cloud Library. If it's different, check with the librarian. It won't be anything hard though. It's just going to be your library barcode. You know what I mean? They're not going to try to make it hard for you. So I want you to see that in your digital resources that could be on your phone 15 minutes from now, you can check out all sorts of things. So these are kind of this homepage where it's kind of like trying to entice you with different categories. So here's new fiction, here's new nonfiction, mystery and suspense, romance, Spanish books, libros en español, all Spanish books, Russian books, world languages, new books for kids, new books for teens, chapter books and early readers. One of the things that's powerful is they now have all these audiobooks with earlier readers so that you can follow along while somebody else is reading. So everybody could be reading a book and you aren't trapped trying to read 20 different books to 20 different kids. So this is your digital. It looks like it is audio books and regular books. Yeah. So you have audiobooks and you have physical books. You can tell the audio, see the little headphones on the bottom on the screen. And I bet, see, here's filters. You can, yeah. So here we go. If you wanted to find an audio book, Antonio, what age group do you work with?
I'm working with 6th to 8th grade, so middle school.
Okay, so you want kind of teens and tweens, right? And if you wanted to have like a cool audiobook that would last 2 weeks, and you guys would do different art projects and like discussion, book discussion, and like snacks, extra special snacks separate from you could then unselect ebooks. And this will show you just audiobooks. San Diego's a little slow. There we go. Black history, right? If you wanted to go over Black history titles and audiobooks because of this month. The No Name Book Club selection, the Black History Month, new fiction. This is adults and children. Then you can filter it further. Usually browse as teen fiction, right? Or kids fiction. So I'm going to do kids because you have 6th to 8th grade. You could do the upper edge of kids. Here's middle school, James Patterson stuff. He writes very, so here's nothing but kid stuff in audiobooks. And this is not obviously everything. This is just the start. So you could do action adventure. And I'm going to view the whole list. So here's action adventures, tells you how long. See this duration? So that's going to be Pete the Cat, 7 minutes, because they're picture books. They're really funny. Raven's Revenge, Rhinos at Recess, that's an hour. So you could take 3 days, right? 20 minutes a day in your enrichment time and have them drawing and researching on rhinos and have connections. There's a STEAM connection. For middle school, let's go to teens. And what I love about audiobooks is you could, and I'm just gonna pick one. Kristen Kashore, by the way, is an excellent YA writer who does amazing stories with strong female protagonists that are just really interesting and great quality writing. So this is Sea Sparrow. It looks like it's 16 hours. So maybe you would be committing like for a month that you guys would listen to 20 minutes a day, right? And kind of have this book club thing going. And you would check this out. And what I love about it, and I'm going to stop sharing for a second. What I love about audiobook is you don't have to be a good reader. You don't have to take your eye off your group. You just put it on your phone, check it out on your phone or your work tablet or something. And then if you have a little JBL speaker, right? So it broadcasts well. Then you just pop it on the speaker and now you are freed up, and somebody with great voicing, great timing, sometimes even a cast, they'll have multiple people reading it, right? So it's a very dynamic, interesting way, and you are not trapped by the book. So you can circulate, you can work with the kids if you're having them do any writing or note-taking, or if they're going to draw or maybe build a model, right? If you did something kind of that's science themed, or like it's an adventure story, but they're under the sea. Rick Riordan is another fabulous adventure writer, and he writes really great. They made some movies out of his. That he's got that half Greek Olympus, where the half-bloods, the kids are children of gods and humans. He has a whole series, and they made movies out of him. But he's got another one that's Under the Sea, right? This girl that's going to an underwater academy, and like they could actually build a model of a sea floor, right? Like you could have all sorts of hands-on interesting things going on, or they're doing a watercolor. You could find a separate art project that's like sea turtles or like, damage to ocean, and listening to this action adventure story, right? So you could put more than one thing together and have this really developed thing. So audiobooks are fabulous for that experience, and also releasing the leader from having to be like trapped on the page and also with their own any fears about reading to kids and so on, and having a good voice or pronouncing words or whatever different leaders might worry about. So it can be really powerful that way. So back to digital. So your basic books, and now, if you need, that's one big thing. So there's so many, right? Action, adventure, themes. We can go to nonfiction, teen nonfiction. You can actually do whole units or programming. How to be a young anti-racist, right? I don't know what your group is into, but if they're interested in social justice, this can be using a book so that you don't feel like you're alone or inventing things or not saying things in a healthy way, right? You can use books that you check out from the library to help guide working with the kids on social justice. There is just so much. The science and nature is huge for teenagers. Women in science. And this is physical or non-digital books. Is this feeling comfortable, Antonio?
What's that?
Is this feeling comfortable? Do you start to see some of the ideas and possibilities?
Yeah, definitely. Because I like them since also we could like stop them and then like reflect and see what's going on, what they understand, what they don't understand, and then continue it whenever we need to.
Right. And let me tell you right now, it's not in my presentation, but since it's just you, and I will tell you right now, a shortcut to that is go 4 different things: character, setting, plot, or theme. So we don't ask them all 4 things. They'll just like shoot you because it's boring. But like you stop and ask a question about one of the characters. Wow, do you guys think this guy's really evil, or does he think he's the good guy? Why did the bad guy think he's the good guy, right? Bad guys never good guys. But why would this bad guy think he does? And then you have them chat. And then does anybody else have a situation in their life that reminds them of, right? And you have a 5-minute stop and then you move on. And then the next time you might go, setting, wow, this is interesting. Do you think the story would be different if it was in a forest versus this house? Why? Is the setting affecting it? Or is this book kind of one of those places where it kind of doesn't matter where it's happening? It's more what the plot is, right? Like prediction. One of the biggest things to help all people be better readers is it turns out in research that very accomplished readers, they don't even notice it. They are predicting all the time. Like, what is the next page? What is going to happen? Right? Like they don't even notice that they're predicting, right? And they read to the next page to see if their prediction is paying off. It's like when we watch a movie too, right? We think he's going to break up with her. I'm telling you, he's breaking up with her, right? Or I'm telling you, she's so sweet, but she's not. She's actually the one that like is going to stab her in the back and is saying nasty things about her behind, to the boss or whatever's happening in the story, right? But like make predictions for all our storytelling. And one of the things to help your kids, anytime you can get them to make predictions about and then read on or listen on to see if their prediction pays off, you are definitionally helping them become more powerful readers. You just are. If you help them with prediction and have them experience it over and over and over and start, because you have to pay attention to context clues, right? Oh, she said that, but there was a look, right? The writer said she said that, but then she put that down. Why'd she put it down? That's because she's not actually going to carry it, right? We all do this. We see somebody show up in the first act and we're like, nah, he's going to do something later, right? Like he has to, kind of thing. So all of that is with your kids. So you have so many digital books here, thousands and thousands of titles. You've got healthy living, you've got humor, you've got inspirational and personal growth. And this is all, if you notice, I'm only in here's inspirational and personal growth for your teenage. I'm only in teen nonfiction audiobooks, right? So I could add back in ebooks and look at inspirational and so a guide to crushing girlhood. What is feminist? Out, how to be your authentic first for the LGBT kids. Respect the mic. how I resist. I mean, just it's amazing, right? Just all these different things and topics. So it can be very customized to the specific interest of your actual kids, right? Sports, biographies, famous people, music, different social justice issues. Funny, you don't look autistic, right? Like what people on the spectrum, just so many different things. I'm going to start like getting super excited on you in a second because that's how
I wanted to add just something a little bit.
Yes.
Like I used to work with middle school students and they're my favorite. I love middle school. And we actually were lucky that next to the middle school I worked with, there was a library branch. And so we would take field trips to the library and then have folks like, you know, sign up for our library card. That was an activity that we did. The next time we would go back, look at the books, which are the books that you're interested in. And then, you know, as a group, we would choose like, which are the books that we want to like read together as a community. And then the librarians a lot of time had like more information. Sometimes I would just go hang out with the librarian. I would be like, hey, because of course I would give them a heads up before bringing my kids. But I'd say, hey, you know, I want to bring my young people over. And then I would ask her, like, what are some popular books that you see young people reading these days? And so then I would kind of go through them and then we'd vote on which book we would be reading together.
Totally. Librarians are your best buddies. You don't have, Antonio, you don't have to be an expert in titles. You don't have to be an expert. You can just know what you want or kind of think what you want, right? And ask them. And I would hope, but if you were to feel intimidated, this is what they love to do. This is what they get paid to do. They're to connect you. There's so any intimidation, like, well, if I bother them, you're not bothering them. And many of these places, and we can check your website, but many of them let you connect digitally, where you can just even email them. You don't have to physically go in and talk to a youth librarian. But if you do have a branch near you or near your location, it can be great to go in physically and talk to them and meet them face to face, right? Antonia and Leslie, real quick. So we've talked about a little bit of the digital, and I'll come back to the digital, but I want to remember that libraries still have books, right? And sometimes, Antonia, you're like, I want to do something with science experiments, right? And I don't know enough science experiments. And when I look online, it's confusing, or they seem incomplete, or I can't really find the trustworthy. So sometimes it can be good and just check out a book. 101 great science experiments, and then like pick out 5 or have the kids pick out 5, right? And then they have like a science experiment face-off where they all demo their science experiment to each other, right? In small groups, or have a little mini science fair at checkout and show off to their parents. And all you had to do was check out one simple book. I'm currently actually writing a science experiment as Wonder and Awe. And so one thing that's great is that you yourself do not need to be an expert. So science is magic. So this is all these different experiments, how to do fun things with magic. Here's also light. Antonia, I know you don't work with older kids, but we are recording this. So in case anybody else is going to watch this down the line from the workshop, I want to point out for younger kids, this book I just happened to be in yesterday at my library and found sensory play for toddlers. And a lot of schools are adding TK, right? And TK is very intimidating because they're 4 and their needs and their verbal abilities. And there's like schooly, they don't have homework to work on, and they don't. Right? Like, how do you support them for younger kids? This book is fantastic. I've already gotten like 5 ideas. For instance, I'll just show you. I mean, I thought this was amazing. I never would have thought of this. A sensory tray using polenta. Just using the polenta where the little kids can, like, buy a bag of polenta, the corn grain, and then they can do little trucks and stuff. So it's like construction company kind of thing. I know that sounds amazing, dumb, but it's 4-year-olds, you kidding? you're like awesome if you give them little wheelie truck and some polenta to drag the thing through and some rocks and so on. I mean, this book is amazing, and I did pay not a dime. All I had to do was go to my library and check it out. Here's another one that I thought was amazing. Actually, I think this book is amazing. I'm going to be doing so much with the TK program. Here's one. It says wash the pig, but like you could use anything, cars or whatever. But the idea where you actually like got a little wheelie or hot wheeler or like some figure, and then you actually have a little tub and you get it dirty and then they wash with an old toothbrush. These are 4-year-olds, right? So they clean and scrub and then they dry it off with a little towel and everything. They will love this idea, right? I myself was getting these science experiment books to write a curriculum. And in this book yesterday, when I went, was this book. And I was like, 1,000 words of science. And I thought, what is this? You guys, I never would have thought of this, but somebody has written a book that literally, in a fun way, is all this science experiment, not science, what do I want to say? Vocabulary, illustrated, right? So there's the human health system, there's materials, and it's just all these words. I'm not going to show this book, but I will then go through and find how to then use some of these words and realize that not everybody knows all these words, right? So there's a way you can play games with it. You could do bingo, you could do drawing, you could just do so much, or just embed it in the lessons, right? So there's so much you can do. And I never would have thought about it unless that book happened to be in this section where I was looking for the experiment. So there's physical books, Antonio, there's digital books, there's audio books. Another thing I want to talk about is programs and events, because we're coming down. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Yes, cookbooks. So I will talk about the cookbooks in a second. One of the best things is magazines. And you can talk about with magazines, especially the cooking magazines, looking at the different types of recipes and talk about, like, could you substitute for somebody who needs to not have sugar, or could you a gluten-free version or a vegetarian version, right? Like at the middle school level, kind of go another level. Talk about the math. Well, how would you double this, right? This says it serves 6, but there's 20 of us in the room. We'd need like 3. How would you do that? Does that change the food when you maximize it, right? It increase the ingredients and so on. So programs and events is another thing I want to talk about. Here is your
yeah, I was just taking a look at those, and I was also seeing like they have contests. Like I think there's one that says contest. Oh yeah, I don't know if it's in your screen, but there's like a short story contest that
yes,
we could like influence the students to participate in it. And it also has like prizes, like first place prize is a publication on the website of the San Diego Public Library, and also $300. And there's also like a second place, third place. And I was seeing like for the high schoolers, I guess you could say, they're seeing some of them. There's like also how to do your taxes or something involved with taxes.
Yes, so I'll come back to that. So what I want to, yes, I'm so glad. In fact, you know what? I do have this in the curriculum. Why don't we take, Leslie, you can do this for fun with your library and look beyond the basics, but take a look at your site and click on all these things, Antonio. Go deeper, click on, I'm in the kids and teen section. What is this virtual hub? What is this distance learning center? Because a lot of schools now, libraries now have tutoring. And sometimes your kids, maybe there's just you and your kids need tutoring. You can put 3 of them to connect to the library tutoring system, right? Or maybe they have a class that you don't really feel confident about the content, and you could connect them to another tutoring source for free. So here's the Distance Learning Center. Here's 6th to 8th grade. Here's other resources that they get, Khan Academy, PBS Learning, and all of these, if you have a library code, barcode, this means they have, if it's listed, the library, do you see this? Requires a San Diego Public Library card. the kids or you would type in the barcode and then you'd get access to this entire resource. Math and science, computer science, social studies. So just, I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes and I'm going to let you just start looking around at what you, oh, this one's good. Rosetta Stone. You know what that is? That's like Duolingo, but advanced.
Yes.
You get a total free subscription to Rosetta Stone using your library card.
I'm sorry, how did you get into that? The page that you're at again?
This is the Distance Learning Center. I went to the Kids and Teen tab.
Okay.
And see this Distance Learning Center? This little,
Okay.
if you click on that, then it lists all these resources, some of which are just open to everybody. And then each tab is a different age group.
Okay, yeah, I see. Khan Academy.
I did middle school because you're 6 to 8, right? And then I started scrolling down. Some of it is public access and others is you need the library card because they've paid for a subscription. But when you type it in, then you get access.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, if you've got kids that are into comic books, Comics Plus, it's nothing but digital comics, graphic novels, and manga, and it's awesome. You could do a whole unit or a whole program around comics and manga if you wanted, and then check out books on how to draw your own manga, right? And
Definitely.
so, and then they're drawing their own, and then you can combine a social justice. It's manga about a local issue in your community or an issue inside your group. All right, I am going to be quiet for 5 minutes. It's hard to do when it comes to library resources, but I will let you look around, both of you. Check out what you got. So while you're doing that, in that first square of that paper I had you grid, you don't have to do a lot of ideas, but just list the things you want to come back to. Comics Plus. Maybe that comics thing is interested. Just in that first square, things that you have, that your library, cloud library, audiobooks, just kind of tag, like it's more like tag notes for yourself to remind you of things that you think were cool in that first square.
Did you want us to share these out?
Sure, just a second. So yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, okay. So
I found that's interesting to you.
yeah, so I wrote down a Rosetta Stone because a lot of my students I'll was noticing that they are getting taught Spanish.
Mhm.
And a lot of people would come up to me like, oh, how do you say like this? How do I say that? And I'm like, I have no problem telling them, but a lot of times I don't know the proper way to say something also. Like it might come out as slang or not the correct term. So I'm like, I could like recommend them like, oh, look, this is what I think it is, but you could always double check right here. Also the Comic Plus, because yeah, there's a lot of kids that are into comics and all that. I wrote down the Canopy Kids that was like a
Yes.
educational fun videos. Or like I know a lot of kids like seeing videos a lot of times. I catch them like trying to get to YouTube or something. Instead, I could be like, oh, you guys could give that a try. Also National Geographic Education. Also, I remember as a kid, I used to love seeing National Geographic. So maybe it's something that they like still. And code.org, which is computer science. Because personally, I'm not too good at science. So I'm like, maybe if I can't help them, maybe get the help from there,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think those are all excellent ideas and things you probably didn't know about an hour ago.
Yes.
One of the things, couple more things I want to put down, Antonia, because I have not, this is amazing. If on that same kids and teen page, just so you can find it, this library next with the little tiny X on it. Do you see that on the share?
Yes.
What I want to show you, it's a series of workshops for elementary, middle, and high school students on a whole range of topics, okay? 55 different STEAM ideas. It started as a pilot, it's now this full-on thing. Before I get into that, look down here. Your middle school, if you have high schoolers at your program, SAT and ACT test prep classes are expensive. The library
Yes.
is offering completely free a full prep course for this spring's SAT courses. Is that crazy cool or what?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So then if you scroll down, look at these courses. Now, obviously you have to check in and make sure that your group could participate because this is in general, but some of these are in person and some are in virtual. But look at, these were the January ones. Let's see in March, what's happening in March since that's coming up. Gorging 3rd, 3 to 5, 6 to 8 tiny houses from 4 to 7 at Oak Park. So it might not be near you. This is an in-person one, but there might be a virtual one. Electric vegetables, gorging on geology, rocks and minerals. That's 3rd, 5th. Here's 6 to 8. Ooh, virtual viruses, zombies of biology. What do vampires, zombies, and viruses all have in common besides sounding freaky when you put them together? And they will learn about some of the world's most interesting and dangerous diseases, how they're transmitted, why some are so harmful. Virtual workshop, there you go. If your program goes to 6 from 4 to 5:30, all your 6th to 8th grade, and it's a virtual thing on March 7th that you can register for. And how do viruses relate to pop culture icons like Spider-Man or Venom? Right? All of this so you don't have to be the expert. Here's an introduction to Python programming. If you've got any kids that are sort of code interested but don't really know how to get into that next level beyond Scratch and that click and drag kind of thing, get into real programming. Here's a 90-minute introduction for free, virtually, right at your location. Right? It's amazing. All of these different things. Physics and fidget spinners. That's pretty cool. Photography for social change. That's an awesome 6th to 8th grade one. Craftonics, Lego Mindstorms. And all of this is free and just because of your public library and completely custom programming. And you don't have to invent it. You just need to connect them to it, right?
Yeah.
It is just remarkable what's available. One thing I do want to talk about because we're getting close to time is we've talked a lot about what you could do with kids and for kids. I want to look at the actual catalog because one thing you can do for yourself You guys don't have Hoopla, which I'm a little disappointed. Leslie, if you have Hoopla, Hoopla is amazing. It has an amazing educational professional development section. Fostering resilient leaders and all the Dave Burgess books. It's amazing. Because we are recording, I'm gonna take 1 second and show people, this is just my Hoopla on my tablet. Let me boot it up. And I just wanted to show you the titles. I already pre-checked them out to show you. So, Fostering Resilient Learners, it's just a tab. I've already checked out the book. You just tap it, and then it shows up, right? And then you just and there's the book. Let me do it that way. There we go. And there's the book. And this is about how to foster resilient, creating a trauma-sensitive classroom. It's a little bit school-based, but you could totally adapt it to your after-school group, right? And it talks about understanding trauma and the prevalence of the not okay and the manifestation of ACEs and how to stay true and remaining grounded in chaos. And when in doubt, shut your mouth and take a breath, right? Helping kids like manage in chaotic times, right? And not be so reactive to things. And it's just an amazing book. And it's just for professional development, it will help you create an incredible room. And you don't have to, I don't know, go to a special workshop, and you can just pick and choose what's useful to you. It's like customized professional development for yourself. And Hoopla has a ton of these great ones. Also, here, I just found this yesterday that I totally want to read, which is 30 cognitive movement strategies to boost cognitive engagement. I feel like after school program knows they're not school, right? But yes. At the same time, how do we get past just the sports piece? Right? Like, how do we have them moving around in new, interesting ways that's not just the traditional sports or playground games, right? And so movement, how to do movement strategies in the room. So because we seem to either copy the school model and everybody's silent at a desk or a table together, right? Or we're outside playing. Like, how do we get to a third space? And so being able to use movement strategies where they talk and then they rotate. They, that they are up and going and moving around the room with purpose and engagement, and it doesn't feel like school, and it's also not just sports. That makes sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So there's just so many cool things. But what I wanted to do, go back to, so that's the Hoopla has a lot of things, but I don't think you guys have Hoopla in San Diego. So I'm mentioning it for the recording, but I'm gonna go back to, since I want Antonio, he gets to be the star because he got to show up today. Back to the homepage. Do you see this homepage, Antonio? You talked about the tax form. So I want to know how you can also connect your program, not just for you as a professional development and not just books and resources and awesome things to do with your kids, but also your families, your coworkers, your community that you're embedded in. You can be a resource, linking them. You don't have to know anything about tax forms, but you can tell them they can get free bilingual help. I'm clicking on the thing, the actual forms. This tells you where all the forms, but also how you can actually get help with tax assistance. Literally, here are the dates, starting February 6th to April 12th at the Allied Garden branch, at the Pacific Beach branch this year. So here's all these branches and who, and by appointments or how to do it and what the flyer is and so on, so that your family, you could be a connector. Here's Legal Aid of San Diego, right? If they have special situations that they need to deal with. I'm going to jump to the Los Angeles one for other people to see for a second, because they have a lot of stuff for grownups that I think are really powerful, and LA has a lot of after school programming, obviously. LinkedIn Learning, If you LinkedIn for the barcode, you get all these online classes that are, if you had to pay for them, are hundreds of dollars. And they're free, and they're learning how to do sound mixing, how to do graphic design, how to do coding, how to do project management, soft skills, negotiation, all sorts of stuff. Services and programs. One of the things, adult literacy programs, helping parents learn to read themselves. A lot of people will hide that, but jobs and money. Here's a career prep, how to job hunt, so many resources. Back to San Diego, you can get a high school diploma for free from many California libraries. High school diploma. Here is a career.
I want to say too that I think, sorry to cut you off.
No, go right ahead.
I want to say that there's also some like CBEST classes that you can take at some libraries.
Yes, which is huge for people who are youth leaders that are interested in becoming teachers down the line, or at least being able to sub, which is good money these days. Here's the high school career. And one thing that's interesting to know is if you're in LA and you're 18 or older and you live in LA or work for the city of LA, you does not require US citizenship or a transcript. Right? A lot of people feel trapped because of their status and something. And if you can get a full diploma through this program. You click here, get started, you answer a survey, then you're invited to enroll, and you complete an online prerequisite course, and then you start actually working on it. And it's a career focus, so the career areas, there's like 8 areas of focus for the library. It's amazing to get this whole diploma. So the libraries are amazing on this. Back to you, Antonio, and specific to your and I will point out, Antonio, I'm not kidding. Next time you go through LA, grab one and get an LA library card. So you have access to all the San Diego, and then you would have Hoopla, and then you would have Libby, and you would have all of the LA stuff for free, just for snagging a card sometime that you drove through for 30 minutes in LA. So one thing to talk about is park passes. More and more libraries are buying memberships to zoos and parks, and then you can check them out. So you can actually check out with your library card the state library park pass and go into a park for free as a family. So you can, even if you don't do it yourself, teaching your parents to get a library card and then checking out the path, and they can take their kids on the weekend for free to a state path. They have nature backpacks they can check out with binoculars and field guides and activity books and bug kits. I mean, amazing, right? Discover and Go, explore local museums, cultural sites for free with the Discover and Go program. Active users may reserve family day passes to some of the biggest attractions in your city, including the new Children's Museum, Skate World, and even San Diego State University Games. I'm not saying you would do this in your program. I'm saying you would teach your families how to access this.
Yeah, definitely.
Which would be amazing, because not all your families have money to go to things like this. But if they knew about this just for a free barcode, they could go to stuff for free in your city.
I mean, and you could take your students to it. Like you could still make like field trips and stuff.
Absolutely. But I just wanted to point out that we have a role here, not just to use these resources inside our program ourselves for our kids and so on, but also how powerful it is to connect our families to these resources and understand how to use them and get a library card themselves so that they have access. And so that is, I'm coming down to my last 10 minutes. So what I wanted to do is have you real quick in the second square of your little notes thing, we're going to is talk about, well, we kind of did that. So, let's go to the third square because we're running out of time. What is something you possibly would do as an actual program experience with any of these ideas, Antonio?
Like I was mentioning, I probably really like the Canopy Kids idea. since I do see a lot of students in their computers seeing videos and everything. So I feel like the Canopy Kids is something that I'll definitely be taking a look at. And maybe even the Rosetta Stones too. Rosetta Stone is
there's
something that
2 things to think about with that is either you put a Canopy Kids on your device, right? A work device or personal using your barcode, and then project it onto a screen so everybody gets to watch the same video together.
oh yeah, that also works.
Right. So you can make it kind of a group experience and also a little bit control what's happening and being seen. Or you can have kids have a barcode and log in and watch individually too. But keep in mind that you can do it as a large group experience,
Yeah, definitely.
just using your own barcode. One thing I would like you to do is on the 4 square is I'd like you to, and I'll give you a couple minutes and I'll be quiet, is think about how you could do a family literacy night or connects the family somehow. Would you do it at checkout, right? You could have a passport where you just teach them one thing. You just show them Cloud Library. You just show them Canopy Kids. You just show like, what's one active activity you could do? Or have the kids listen to an audiobook and make posters. I'm giving you ideas, but I just so that you can kind of think like, what's a way that you might do a family connection activity, small or bigger, in your program to connect your families to the libraries?
So could I maybe be like the online books, like have them finish an online audiobook, and once they finish it, make a little graduation party, invite their families and everything?
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
sounds super fun.
Wouldn't it be? Absolutely. And they can make a little poster with the cover and everything so they can show off what they read.
Yeah, and or maybe even making their own, the Comic Plus, I believe it was, making their own like little books, their own, and then like reading it out to their parents also.
Yes. Oh, that would be so cool if everybody did their own comic book. First, you read some just for fun, right? Kick back and comic books inside our program. This is how we're not school. This is how we're fun and interesting and connected. So we're going to kick back, read some comic books, maybe talk about them, how they have different visual styles, different story focus. Some of the negatives, perhaps, if the women are kind of always the victim or something, right? Like analyze and examine the thing. And then actually start drawing and making their own comic books, right?
Yeah, like you mentioned, we could like also make sure they have like the character, setting, plot, and scene with them.
Absolutely. The 4th one's theme. Sorry, not scene. Theme.
The 4th one was what? Theme.
Theme.
Oh, okay.
So like theme is something like
Thank you, Leslie.
What is the theme of I don't know what I just saw Maverick, that Top Gun series, right, last night. And so there's several themes in there, right? You can take away, but like one is commitment. Right? I don't know if you've seen that movie yet. Have you seen it?
Not yet.
Okay. Let me pick one. What is the movie you've seen recently?
Ooh. It's been a while.
How about a TV show?
Or any of the those, what's that Marvel movie? Oh, the new Black Panther movie that came out. Did you watch that one?
Yeah, I did see that one. Yes.
Okay. You saw the sequel?
Yes.
So obviously one of the biggest things is grief. Right? How do people manage grief when you've lost someone?
Yeah, grief.
Revenge.
Leadership also, how she had to take over for her family and grow empowering, how she became the Black Panther.
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes there's also the theme of, do you always want to do what the family wants you to do?
Yes.
How much of you, when you go out in the world, how much should be what you want to do versus what your family wants to do? If there's conflict or tension, how do you resolve that? These are all questions that middle schoolers are dealing with.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And so comic books and comic movies and all these things engage with these amazing things, and they can make their own books and their own stories and their own comic stories. And then you can have them displayed, right? You do this really great display on foam core. And when the parents come in, the kids can share. But also have everybody's up at once so that the parents and the kids themselves and their teachers, right? You're on site. So invite the teachers and the principals. So they know that you're just not, yes, it's playful, but you're not just babysitting. Right?
Yeah.
Like you're not school and you're playful, but you're not babysitting. They're doing amazing, interesting, self-authentic work and experiences and explorations, artistically, mentally, emotionally, community-wise, the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. Something I'll probably bring up to my program leader. See how we could get more involved with it. See what we could end up doing. How much free space do we have?
So, Antonio, I'm going to put you on the spot a tiny bit. Do you have a library card?
I do. I just don't know where it's at currently. But I do have one.
Okay. So I really, really want to encourage you to stop by your local branch and get a new one if you've really lost it, right? They won't care. It's going to be fine. Or sign up for a digital one, right?
Yes.
Really want to encourage you to actually connect to the library yourself.
Definitely.
Because I think you'll find that once you have that as not a barrier, right, that then connecting to all these other resources will happen naturally.
Yeah, definitely. I'll see if I could get one today. If not, well, sometime this week.
Excellent. I'm hoping that this was a useful 90 minutes for you. And
yes, definitely. I learned a lot of
idea
different.
of the library is a superpower for you, right?
Yes, definitely. Learned a lot of different resources that I didn't know the library has. So even if it's not just going for books, they also have a lot of different resources that we could use from it, or even just information,
Right. Absolutely. Because what I want you to do is be successful in your work with your children.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And this is free and easy and right from your phone.
Yeah, and definitely. Yeah, now, like I said, it's something that they let me join, a program that they let me join. So I'll talk to my site coordinator about this. Thank you so much.
Leslie, I think you had a survey you wanted to send them.
So we'll be sending the feedback survey in the main room, but also Antonio, there's this other survey, the Power of Us, that I really would encourage you to fill out as well.
Okay.
And then we'll be sharing more information on that in the app and also in the main space.
All right. Thank you.
So 2 things, Antonio and Leslie. This is my email. I am not kidding. I am always available for exploring more because I am a complete geek for this stuff. I will also, Antonio, I don't know if you're coming in person. I am presenting Saturday at the conference on 50 enrichment ideas.
So I would not, because this is I got this opportunity to join this one since I participated in a different one, and they mentioned how they had 3 tickets for. Sorry, I was just writing down your email. They mentioned how they had 3 tickets for 3 site coordinators that would like to attend. All we had to do was ask our program leader if they let us, and I was like, all right, definitely. So we reached out, and luckily I was able to get this opportunity.
Well, I'm glad, and I hope you're going to do the afternoon and join the game night at 5:30 as well.
So I will not be able to